Hey guys, what's up? Here's Manny again, and I wanted to make another review of my Microsoft Surface Pro. I have actually had about roughly a day to, play around with the settings and install some things that I liked. And so I wanted to go ahead and make a second review of, for one thing, my thoughts and impressions of the device so far, and also I wanted to show you guys how to do a couple of things and give you a couple of notes and reminders of things to remember while using this device and while setting it up, assuming you decide to buy it. And I said in my last video that I wanted to cover everything, but I didn't quite get to cover everything. So I wanted to make this video again to give it another shot, to try and actually cover everything about the device that I think people need to know, or at least should know, in order to make an informed decision about buying this this device. Since again, since it is expensive and it is a lot of money to just throw out there for something you really don't have any idea about. And lastly, there were some things that I said in the first video which weren't quite 100% accurate, and so I wanted to correct those mistakes. And when I get to them, I'll mention it again. I'll say something like it wasn't exactly the way I said it before. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted to start off with some specs first, and I guess we'll start off with the processor and stuff. So we're going to go to the desktop here, and you guys can see I actually already had some things open, and I'm actually going to use the pen right now because I want to be a little bit more accurate. Let's get rid of Firefox, get rid of this. No. Okay. Now we're going to go and look at some properties. Come on now. Well, I guess we're not getting to properties from there. But I do know that I can get to them from here. Select that and go to properties. And it brings us to the desktop. And here you can see all of the Windows 8 system properties. And so here we go. I said before that it has an i5 processor, and I was right about that. It runs at about 1.7 gigahertz, as you can see here. I'm not sure if it's showing up exactly well on the camera. I think it is. If anybody needs glasses or can't see well, then I don't know how well it'll be able to be seen. But you can see on this window right here, it does have an Intel Core i5 3317U central processing unit. It runs at about 1.7 gigahertz, and with Turbo Boost, it boosts up to 2.6 gigahertz. It is a third gen Ivy core processor, and so yeah. The GPU, it doesn't show it on here. No, it doesn't show it on here. But the GPU is an Intel HD 4000, and it is, I have to say, not a bad graphic processing unit. Excuse me. It's not the best. It's not a super fancy NVIDIA anything that you can play any game or watch. Well, you can watch any video, but it is still a really good processor. Again, it might not run Crysis 3 or I should say, it will not run Crysis 3 at top graphics with no issues with the frame rate, but again, it will run that game. And I say this, I know from experience, because I have a different laptop. It has an i7 processor, and it has the same Intel HD 4000 graphics card, and I have played Crysis 3 on it, and it runs very, very nicely. And you know what? The graphics still look phenomenal of that game on this graphics card. So before you go ahead and say, oh, I just paid $1,000 and I got this device that has a i5 processor, but it's got this crappy GPU, don't worry. It is not a bad graphics card. You can play Crysis 3. Now again, maybe not on this device, but for future reference, any device that has the Intel HD 4000 and has a decent processor, you can play newer age games. Again, they won't be on the highest resolution, but I mean, they still look pretty darn good. And in fact, I have a picture I might include in a link in the description or something. I might include that of a picture, how the graphics look. And so, okay, next thing, it has 4 gigs of RAM, and it says here that there is 3.89 gigs usable. And so, I mean, it's still not bad. It's fast enough to do all of the things that you would do, that you would need this to do. And I actually, if this video doesn't go too long, I will show some gameplay of a game. I have installed Steam on here already, and I'll show a little bit of gameplay just to see how smooth it's running. And it's not a brand new game, but I mean, it's still, the graphics still look pretty nice. So there's your 4 gigs of RAM. The storage it does say 128 gigabytes of storage, but they really are only giving you about 110 gigs, and I will show you that here. We'll go to File Explorer and we'll go to Computer. So you can see Windows, the C drive has, you can see I have 75, almost 76 gigs free of my 110, unfortunately. Who knows where that other 18 gigs disappears to? I know that Windows 8 needs some space, obviously, to have all of its files and all those such things, but it doesn't take 18 gigs. I know that for sure. And I believe actually that all that spare space that Windows needs is included and subtracted from that 110 gigs. So I'm not sure exactly where it goes, but I don't know. You do always have your expansion slots, and I'll go over those later. It is a 128 gig SSD. So basically what that means, among other things, is that this device will go from completely shut down to fully up and running and ready to use in a little less than a minute. And again, it'll go to sleep and it'll wake up, and it just does everything faster than if it were to just have a regular hard drive. And again, as far as this limited amount of space that is on the hard drive, I will very possibly, very likely even, upload a video showing you how you can increase that space. You start off, like I said, I have a couple of things installed. I don't have too much. I mean, it's been a day, but I mean, you get around 90 gigabytes of free space out of that 110. But I will show you how you can increase that. You can, for one thing, delete your recovery partition, and there are a couple of other files that you can delete, and that gives you about 14 gigs or so of free space. And so, yeah. And lastly, I will go over the battery. And the battery lasts about 4.5 to 5 hours. I mean, I can look at the wattage and the amperage on the power brick, and I can look all that stuff up. But really, the most important thing for you viewers to know is that yes, it's not the best battery out there. But again, as I've said to everybody else who has said to me, why would you want a device that has such a short battery life? It's not the longest battery life. It's got about, like I said, 4.5 to 5 hours. I've heard some people get 6, maybe a little close to 7. I have not personally tested it, so I'm not 100% sure. Again, I've only had it for a day. I got it and made the first review video 2 days ago, and then I went on vacation yesterday, well actually a day trip to Italy as a matter of fact. But I have not had enough time to do all those tests. So I will show, again, like I said, the gaming test and in this video today, and that should be good. I may do, it may be in another video again. My first video was about, when I finished recording it, it was about 47 minutes long, and I definitely don't want another video so long. So if it doesn't go too long, I'll include the gaming in this. Otherwise, I'll just make another video. But please realize that I'm not a 100% expert. I have done a lot of research on this device, and I do know a lot about it, but I'm not perfect, by no means. So anyway, that's what it is as far as specs go. I guess I'll go ahead and close this now, and we'll back this back out. So next thing I want to go over are the features, and in particular the buttons and slot. So starting from the left side, you can see is a volume rocker, this right here, and that is just volume up and down, whatever. Right here, we'll go up. Here is a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. There really doesn't need to be anything explained about that. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Then going down from the top, I'll flip the kickstand down. You can see, hopefully you can see, yep, there's the microphone. All this slot, which actually extends down to the sides, is a vent for the fan. So it doesn't have one vent port where you have to worry about when you're holding your device, oh, maybe I'm covering the fan, or your hand's getting burned off because you're running a couple of videos or playing a game or something like that. But yeah, so it comes out of this entire slot. Here is the power button. And I say power button because it is exactly a power button. It is not a sleep-wake button. Now, of course, those of you who have Windows computers know that you push the power button once, it'll put your computer to sleep, it'll turn it back on, blah, blah, blah. But it's important to remember that this is not an iPad. If you hold that power button down, you will force shut down your Surface Pro. And I don't know how many of you like to force shut down your computers, but that's not always a good thing, especially if you like to keep your data. So just keep that in mind. It is a power button. There are settings you can adjust to where you push it in and it'll put it to sleep, and just other things, and I can make videos on that later, but just keep in mind it is not an iPad sleep-wake button. If you hold the button down, it won't give you an option to slide something to shut it down. You will force shut it down. Now let's go to the right side. Kickstand back again. You can see right here is a micro SD memory expansion slot, and that supports, as far as I know, and I'm sorry, I didn't do all of the research. I meant to look this up, but I never got around to it. I am not 100% sure the highest SD memory card slot that it supports. I do know for a fact that it will support at least up to a 64 gigabyte, and you know what, the 128s are not even out as far as I know. I am waiting, as a matter of fact, for a 128 gigabyte Class 10 SD slot, or SD card, micro SD card. So hopefully those come out soon, but I am not sure if it supports it. I don't see why it wouldn't, but then again, who knows? So don't quote me on anything on that. Here you have the charging port. It is magnetic. This is the charging cable. It has 5 little contacts in there. It has a light on the end. You can see it when it's plugged in. But basically you just need to get it close and it will magnetize and lock in there. And you can see the light on top. This port does also function as a dock for the pen. You can see the button on the pen looks very similar to the charging cable, and so it fits right in there. It is also magnetic, but there have been very many people who said it doesn't hold on so very nicely. It can come off pretty easily, and that is true, but I will go over that later when I go over the pen. And lastly, on this side is the mini display out port, and a little note to that. The Surface Pro does not come with an adapter for that port.